Man United managed to get a late winner against Aston Villa after they managed to get back a goal after being 1-0 down. I think the way that we played today was quite simple. Stop chatting shit, man. I think it's very clear that our main style of play is still counter pressing and transition counter attacking football. We saw that between 5 to 20 minutes, we were able to dominate the game because we were just winning back the ball through our press and through our intensity and just camping in the Villa final third, and we were able to create quite a few chances during that short period of time, which also led to the goal that we scored. After we scored that goal, we didn't really do much in terms of on the ball, and we switched to a very defensive unit. However, the defensive structure that we took wasn't the greatest, and Villa were able to still exploit some of our mistakes. So what Villa were able to do quite well was to isolate Moreno in his left-hand side position in a lot of space. Maybe one of the centre-backs, or Kamara or Douglas Luiz, would play a long switch into Moreno. And you can see here that Garnacho and Dalot are quite spaced away from them. And only really after Moreno received the ball did Garnacho try to go and press and cover him. But what that allowed was Dalot to have some sort of confusion and think that maybe he had to double team on Moreno. And that allowed Ramsey to run free into these sort of channels and get quite a few chances in on goal. And Ramsey was often usually in a deeper position than the one shown on the screen here. But his inverted running caused a lot of confusion, particularly maybe Dallo and Casemiro, who to really mark. And sometimes you'd often see Dallo and Garnacho double teaming on Moreno and leaving Ramsey free to run through the channels. And if Villa were a bit more clinical and if they were a bit more technical, maybe they could have scored earlier on or had a lot more chances earlier on. But a lot of the time we did get away with it. Onana made quite a few good saves, and the defence in general made a lot of recovery tackles and a lot of recovery blocks. And to be fair to Dallo, he did quite well in going out and pressing Moreno and then coming back to track back on Ramsey and making a very good tackle. I think maybe this all could have been avoided if Garnacho just stuck a bit tighter to Moreno from the first place and didn't really let him get as much time on the ball as he did. I think you have to give a lot of credit to Onana today. He made quite a few good saves, but more importantly, his sweeper keeper role helped us a lot today, and he also made a couple of good claims from crosses. I think from quite early on, I realised that today the midfield was not going to be as strong as it usually was. A lot of the times we were in the position as is shown on the screen, with Maguire on Varane on the ball and then just recycling it back and forth with the defence and maybe even with the goalkeeper. Because there wasn't really a clear-cut pass to get into the midfield. That midfield option, that line-splitting pass, wasn't really there. I think the reason for that was the midfield was at times a bit too advanced for my liking. In previous games, we'd see Casemiro dropping in here to get an extra man behind the ball, basically three centre backs. Now, we didn't see a lot of that today. In the past, we would have seen maybe some line splitting pass into Bruno or Mainu who could then quickly make a pass out into the wider areas. But we didn't see that today. And I think the reason for that was Casemiro wasn't really dropping in as much as he used to, and Mainu and Fernandes were a little bit higher up the pitch than they used to be. I think the way that the midfield performed today was what we often seem to see when McTominay played with Mainu and Bruno, with McTominay and Bruno Fernandes being very high up the pitch, leaving Mainu quite isolated. I think today we left Casemiro quite isolated, not just in terms of in the attack, but on the defence. He looked like he may not have had one of his better games because he was quite often overloaded. Now, I don't know if this was a tactical instruction or not, but I think letting Mainu roam further up the pitch more than he used to usually do was actually quite detrimental to the way we played today. This is almost us reverting to our old styles before the new year, where we were very inconsistent in our form. If you watched the game, you would notice that Varane was quite vocal and pointing and telling players to run here and run there. And to be fair to him, with the absence of Martinez, he did quite well in breaking down Villa's lines. Now, one example of that was when Varane was in a position somewhere here on the pitch and was able to play a lovely pass into Garnacho, who then, I don't remember what exactly Garnacho did, maybe he took that shot on his left foot, but it was a fantastic pass to get us into great opportunities. I think Varane's passing has always been one of the most underrated areas of his game. People don't really rate him for that, and maybe look at statistics and say he doesn't really progress the ball well, but that is complete and utter false. Today he showed that he was very capable of playing out the back and creating a lot of progressive passes for us to go on and create chances from. Now, one thing I didn't like, especially in the later stages of this game, was when Onana and Maguire were just dilly-dallying on the ball for no reason and causing Aston Villa to just pressure us. And we saw that happen once when Onana was just loitering on the ball, who'd passed to Maguire, who then loitered and passed him to Lindelof, who was then immediately pressed by this Aston Villa player and almost couldn't really do anything, so ended up just booting the ball out of play. Now, again, I don't know if that's tactical or if that's just the way that the Maguire and Onana are trying to calm the game down. but I don't want to see us doing that ever again. Now, there isn't really much else I can say, so I'm just going to go and jump straight into the player rating. Andre Onana, I'll have to give him a 7. Made quite a few good sweeper clearances, claims from crosses, and made a couple good reaction saves. Dallo, I have to give him a 7.5. Not only did he get the assist for the winner, which is a beautiful cross, but had a lot of good defensive tackles. Varane, I have to give him a 7.5. You could fault him for the goal, but otherwise had a very class performance today. A lot of recoveries and ball wins. Maguire, a 7. Got the assist for the Højlund goal and had a solid performance. Made a lot of good blocks. Luke Shaw, 6. Unlucky to have him injured. Casemiro, 6.5. Did well considering he was often left isolated in the midfield, which means I have to give Manu a 5.5. Did tend to go a bit forward too many times in this game. Fernandes and Rashford, I have to give them both a 5. Didn't really notice them that much in the game. They weren't too involved. Garnacho, a 6. Didn't really produce much from his end product, but had a lot of involvements in the game. And Højlund, a 6.5. Did really well in getting his goal. Lindelof, I'll probably give him a 5. Struggled quite a bit against DRB, but remember, he's not really a left back. McTominay, I have to give him a 6.5 because he got the winner, but I think our performance did decline after he came on. Nevertheless, he still scored the winner and won us the game. Amrabat and Evans, I'll probably give them both a 6. I think overall we did well in that 5 to 20 minute block where we managed to score that goal, but after that we weren't really involved in the game. We just kind of sat back and tried to hit on the counter attack, which I guess is a fair plan. But we can see what the problem with that is if we don't mark the players properly and we let midfield runners get into the box and get chances on goal. We can see that the Villa equaliser was coming from a mile away. So we have to make sure that if we are going into a defensive structure, that we are able to clear our lines and keep a narrow, tight block well. Other than that, it's been a perfect start to 2024 and hopefully we can keep this winning run going.